Hey guys, I am so excited to be here, and I am Maria Fowler, and I'm not sure if you guys can hear me or if you guys can see me, but if you can, just do me a favor and give me a little thumbs up or a little heart. The camera says that I'm live, so I'm really hoping that I am live with you today. I'm super excited to be here. I'm gonna wait a little while to see if anybody jumps on. Okay, so it says that I'm live, so I'm totally live. I know that I am, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys. And if you guys can actually see and hear me, just throw me a thumbs up, throw me a like. I really want to know that you guys can see me. I'm going to give everybody a couple of seconds to hop on. We're going to be talking today about celiac disease and the challenges that go along with it. We're going to be talking about, I'm live. Hi, Amy. Okay, great. Perfect. So I'm really excited because my computer was giving me a problem, and now that Amy can see me, I know that I got this. So we're going to be talking today about celiac disease, the challenges that come along with having celiac disease. We're going to be talking about gluten intolerance. And I know that a couple more people are going to hop on. So I hope that I'm not starting too fast, but I've just been so excited all day to dive into this because it's something that I've been planning for a while, and I have so much great information to share with you all. So the first thing I want to say is that I have celiac disease, and when I found out that I had it, it was after a long illness. I had my son in 2009, and after I had him via C-section, he's my second son, I had all of these problems, all of these ailments. I had pain, I had gastrointestinal issues, I had neurological issues. I had more ailments, symptoms, and sicknesses going on inside of my body that I have ever experienced before. And I went to numerous doctors. I went to a ton of specialists. I was in and out of the emergency room, and no one could find a thing wrong with me, although I had lost a significant amount of weight in 30 days, and I was having severe panic attacks at one point, which I had never had. So my symptoms from having celiac disease, there were a lot of them. I mean, there were a lot of them. And some people don't have any symptoms at all. So for me to not know what was going on at that point, it was very scary. And I want to jump into that. I want to really talk to you guys about symptoms when you're not quite sure what's going on. So the symptoms associated with celiac disease, with gluten intolerance, there are hundreds, you guys. There are hundreds. So some of the symptoms that you can have are gastrointestinal, neurological. You can have joint pain. You can have fatigue, anxiety, stress. There are symptoms that you might have, or symptoms that you might have that you wouldn't even know are associated with celiac or gluten intolerance. Bone loss, canker sores in your mouth, dental issues, reproductive issues. So for a doctor to try and diagnose you years ago, it was not easy, and it's still not easy. And we're going to get into that too. I feel like I have so much information to share with you guys. I'm super excited. So with the symptoms of celiac and gluten intolerance, stress and anxiety, I want to really get into these two for a moment, because when you go to a doctor and your symptoms are stress, anxiety, fatigue, the doctor is going to look at those few symptoms and he's going to try and treat those symptoms. He's going to say, or she is going to say, all right, so maybe you've just been doing too much. You know, you're feeling a bit run down, you're feeling a bit fatigued, a bit stressed. Why don't you try and relax a little? And you know your body. You should really know your body. And when the doctor is telling you these things, you're kind of like, okay, well, you know, maybe I am run down, but I feel like something else is wrong. So when that happens, can you guys still hear me? Something happened to my thing. Can you guys throw me a thumbs up if you can still hear me? Okay, I got a yes. Sorry, you guys. Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you guys so much. So perfect, okay. When you guys end up going to your doctor and you're feeling symptoms of fatigue and stress and a little bit of anxiety, the doctors try and treat your symptoms. And let's say they tell you, just get a little rest, try and take it easy, try and de-stress. Maybe they'll, advise you to do a little yoga. Maybe they'll advise you to do a little journaling, just anything you can to decompress. And so that is something that the doctors are trying to treat for you. But then let's say you end up having other symptoms like gastrointestinal symptoms, headaches, joint pain, all of those, symptoms that go along with celiac and gluten intolerance. The doctors usually try and treat those symptoms. They usually try and say, okay, you're having gastrointestinal issues and you're having stress. So maybe you do have a little bit of anxiety going on, because those can go hand in hand. And maybe the doctor will try and give you a prescription for an anti-anxiety med or an antidepressant. But let's say you go back again and you're like, listen, doc, something's really going on. So this is what happened to me. I was back and forth to so many different doctors, so many different specialists. And each time I went, they tried to treat a symptom, because all the tests and all of the blood work and the medical testing that I was having, and I had a lot of testing, you guys. I was poked and I was prodded like you wouldn't believe. Everything came back clear and negative. And while you're so grateful for that, you still know something's going on. You still know. And so eventually, one of the doctors thought it might be my hormones from having the baby. And so they were like, okay, we're going to put you on an antidepressant. We're going to put you on an anti-anxiety med, because you are postpartum. You have postpartum depression and you have postpartum anxiety. And for months, this went on with me, and something inside of me didn't believe that. Something inside of me said, I don't think that's what I have. I have these physical symptoms. I have these physical ailments. I'm experiencing things I have never experienced before. The challenge of trying to get diagnosed and dealing with these symptoms of being a celiac was one of the biggest challenges I had ever faced in my life. And you guys, I have faced some pretty big challenges. This went on for months, and I had a newborn baby. I had a 2.5-year-old. I was struggling to hold on to my sanity because I was so sick, and it was really, really hard, you guys. And I know that there are so many of you right now that are going through something similar, and it may not necessarily be celiac disease, and it may not be gluten intolerance, but over the years, over the past 10 years, I have spoken to so many people with similar experiences, and it breaks my heart, but it also, it ignites this fire inside of me that makes me want to just share my story and my experience and my knowledge with you all. So I know how you guys are feeling if you've been feeling this way. The symptoms that you're going through is just, oh gosh, I get it. I'm gonna get a little emotional, sorry. I mean, but okay, back to being diagnosed. So let's say you go months or maybe years without being diagnosed. You're doing a lot of damage inside your body. You are really, you're creating well, you're not creating havoc, but havoc is being created inside of your body. And if you have celiac, the small intestine is being damaged, and the esophagus might be being damaged. And the worst part about all of this is that you're constantly living with some kind of pain. You're living not knowing what is going on. And this is just a huge challenge for us all. But if you're lucky enough to be diagnosed early, I mean, that is really a blessing. But the challenges don't stop with the diagnosis, you guys. And that is something that you don't really hear a lot of people talking about so much. The challenges do not stop upon the diagnosis. So once you're diagnosed, another challenge that I had and that I know a lot of people have is losing trust. So the medical field, I felt at that time, 10 years ago, really failed me. And while I would love to share my entire story with you, I really just want to stay on track because I know I'm on a time limit. And one day I will share my entire story, or you can DM me. I'll tell it to you. But the medical field really lost my trust at that time because I felt like I was not being heard. I felt like because I had just had a baby, I was being brushed off. And the lost trust, you know, when you lose trust in your doctors and when you lose trust in those professionals, that's a huge challenge because you need doctors in your life. If you're sick, you need to be able to trust in a professional that's going to listen to you and hear you and look for that problem. That's going to really, you guys are going to brainstorm together, you know. So when you lose trust in the medical field, that's a huge challenge. But not only that, you also end up losing trust in certain people that have been in your life for a long time. So this is really difficult because I am very blessed. I have an amazing family and an amazing support system. And I am really blessed. But I had some friends at that time that were scared. You know, they were scared because they didn't know what I was going through. And I know that happens a lot. And so people, when they're scared or when they're afraid because they don't know what's going on, they tend to kind of dismiss you. Or they leave altogether and you kind of lose that person in your life. And it can be, you know, it can be hurtful. It's a challenge. It's, you know, it's something that happens very often though. And I lost a lot of people in my life at that time because my sickness prior to being diagnosed went on for months. And you know, this is really emotional. This is emotional, you guys. But it's a challenge. You're going to lose people. It happens. People are not understanding what you're going through. When you have an autoimmune disease, many times you don't look sick. And because you don't look sick, and because you may not even be acting sick, people are not understanding why you're not going to certain social events, or why you can't take a trip with them, or travel far at that time. They're not understanding what a flare-up is, and they're not understanding the struggle of being afraid to not be around a bathroom. It's difficult, and again, this is a challenge of being a celiac and of having gluten intolerance that people don't normally talk about. This is not talked about often. It's a big deal when you lose people in your life. So you're losing trust in people. So now you've lost trust in your doctors. You've lost trust in certain people. And sometimes you start to think that maybe it's you. Maybe there's more than just the disease that's happening, and maybe you're giving off a vibe that you don't want to be around people, or maybe you're being standoffish and maybe it's your fault. And so sometimes you start to lose trust in yourself. And I'm here to tell you that you are doing the best that you can. This is not easy. This is hard. And so many things are involved with this whole autoimmune situation. So you're doing the best that you can. So lost trust, that's a challenge, but you have to be able to trust people again. Okay? I was lucky enough to find a doctor who finally listened to me after I was diagnosed. And this one doctor gained my trust back in the medical field again. And he helped me for a very long time, and I'm very grateful for that. And then slowly but surely, I was able to find other doctors that would listen and that were helpful. And you guys can too. So, lost trust. It's a challenge, but you guys can totally get through that. I have to move on because I know I'm going to run out of time. Another challenge that I want to talk to you guys about is something called empowerment. And when you hear the word empowerment, you may not think that that's a challenge, but it is, because you really have to empower yourself when you're in a situation that you're not feeling well and your body is doing things it doesn't normally do. You have to find the strength to empower yourself. And by empowerment, I mean you have to fight for yourself. You have to learn to trust yourself. You have to listen to your body. Your body is telling you things all the time, every day. It takes time. It takes patience. I know it's not easy, but you have to empower yourself. Research. That's one way you guys can empower yourself. Not Facebook. Don't look at Facebook and look at people's opinions and take that as your research, guys. I promise you that's not research. And as there's so many different websites out there that you can look at, what I'm talking about is real research. You want to talk to every doctor, every nurse. You want to look in medical journals. You want to talk to people who have similar experiences that you are having. You want to take all of this research. You want to take it all in. Keep a notebook. Keep a log. That is super, super important. I cannot stress enough how much a log can help you. You log every doctor's appointment. You log every symptom. You log everything you eat and how you feel after you eat it. You log what your testing results were from those doctor's appointments. Logs can save your life, believe it or not. And you bring those logs to every single doctor's appointment. This way they know exactly where you've been, to what doctor, what tests you have, because let's face it, they don't always communicate, okay? So back to empowerment. I get off track. Empowerment research log. Keep all of your research in your log, okay? Research every bit of information about all of your symptoms and how they interact together, your symptoms separately, all the medicines that you're taking, the supplements that you're taking, your family history. Research can be a lifesaver, you guys, I promise you. Something else to help you empower yourself. Research supplements. Once you're diagnosed, you're going to need to know what supplements are going to be best suited for you. Okay, so let's say your diagnosis is celiac disease, and you know that because of the celiac disease, you have been malnourished for quite some time. Your body is not absorbing the nutrients that it needs to absorb. Maybe you're anemic. Maybe you're B12 deficient. Make sure that you guys empower yourselves by getting the proper blood work done, because that is a huge, huge challenge with celiac disease and gluten intolerance and a whole bunch of other autoimmune diseases. You get nutrient deficient. So when I was actually finally diagnosed, I found out I was not only a celiac, but I had anemia, I had B12 deficiency, I had a calcium deficiency, I had D3 deficiency. It was amazing. It blew my mind how many different things can go wrong when you're undiagnosed for so long. So you have to make sure that the supplements that you're getting are appropriate for what's going on in your body. That, you know, you don't want to be taking extra D3 if your D3 levels are really high and really strong and good. You don't need it. So make sure that you know what your levels are for your nutrient deficiencies, your minerals that you're deficient in. Make sure that you know, get the blood work done, keep a log of it, keep it in your log, and then make sure that the supplements that you get are high quality supplements. Usually I love a powder or a liquid. I don't like tablets that much. If you happen to have a tablet, just make sure it's a high quality tablet so that you're actually able to absorb everything that's in that, that supplement. But powder or liquid is best, and then gel caps, those are also really good. So just make sure that you're empowering yourself by researching your supplements. You also want to empower yourself by thoroughly searching your doctors. You want to make sure that your doctor is experienced in what you're going through, because you can go to any doctor and they can easily write you any script, but that's not necessarily going to help you. So I had to go through a ton of doctors before I found one that was experienced in celiac disease and that really understood what I was going through. So empower yourself by making sure that you do your homework on your doctors, okay? You want them to have experience in what you're dealing with. That is the most important thing. You want them to have good reviews. Recommendations are a lifesaver sometimes, okay? Talk to everybody. Moving on to more challenges that we face, cross contact, okay? I know I'm going kind of fast, you guys, but I want to keep it nice and tight here. Celiacs, gluten intolerance, and anyone, with a food allergy, cross contact is a huge problem. That challenge for the last 10 years is something I have not been able to get away from. I used to love eating out. I used to love a variety of foods. And when I was diagnosed with celiac, I knew that I couldn't eat certain foods anymore. And so my household, I made my whole household gluten-free at the time. And that was easy enough. I knew, I did my research, and I knew that I needed to have my separate toaster, or new toaster actually at that time. A colander, it had to be new. You didn't want any pasta, gluten pasta that was in it, because if you don't wash that with bleach, and if you don't wash that properly, you are definitely going to get cross contact. And some people are not that sensitive to cross contact when it comes to physical symptoms. I am extremely sensitive when it comes to cross contact. Any little thing throws my whole body off. So cross contact is a huge challenge. At home, it's a little bit easier to really make sure that you're keeping your area safe. If you live in a home where other people are still eating gluten, you have to make sure that you label everything that's yours, and that you're not cleaning your pots and your spoons with the same sponge as that they're cleaning their stuff with, because that can also cross contact. Believe me, I know it's hard, it's a challenge, but you guys can do it. When you go out to eat, how many of you are like scared to go out to eat? Because I'm telling you, I am petrified to go out to eat. And sometimes if I go out to eat and I look at a menu, or I am asking the server about their gluten-free options, and I get a weird feeling, or I think that, something's not right there, I'm not eating. I'm having something to drink and I'm just not eating. And I've learned that through the years. Cross contact when you're at a restaurant is really tricky. Even if the restaurant seems super, super safe, it's never actually really safe. And I say that with caution, because you can have a separate fryer for your gluten-free mozzarella sticks. And that fryer can be right next to the pizza oven. And the pizza oven, if it's not a dedicated gluten-free establishment, there's flour in the pizza dough, you guys. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we have, just, in our everyday lives when eating out, when going out. There's flour that's flying around in that restaurant. It can go, a little tiny bit can get into the gluten-free fryer, and then what's gonna happen? You're gonna get cross contact, you're gonna get sick. It's a challenge, it's a huge challenge, and I know that there's lots of ways around that right now. You can talk to the owners of the establishments and the managers. As we move forward, they are becoming more and more knowledgeable about how important it is to keep the ingredients separated. And I know that because I do go out a lot, and I do, I will visit restaurants and I will visit their kitchens because I write articles about that. So I know that over the last 10 years, they've become more and more knowledgeable. But you still have to be as careful as you can be when you're eating out. It's a huge challenge for celiacs. It's a huge challenge for the gluten intolerant community. Do the best that you absolutely can. Make sure that they know that your gluten intolerance and your celiac disease is not something that is not important. It's important. It's serious. They need to understand that. They need to understand that you cannot have any gluten at all. And, sometimes you will be in a restaurant that they will have no idea what you're talking about. Or they have heard of gluten, but it's not really a big deal because they think it's just a fad. And I would say that you would have to just get up and leave that restaurant, because you guys can tell when you get into that restaurant and they kind of look at you like, oh yeah, that gluten thing. We have gluten free, we have salad, and then the salad comes out, it's got croutons on it. You guys all know what I'm talking about. I know you do. So it's a huge challenge. Be super, super persistent in that restaurant, okay? I'm gonna move on. Another challenge is malnourishment, nutrient deficiency. We talked about that a little bit before, but I wanna get into that again. It's really important. When you have celiac disease, especially if you've had it for quite some time without a diagnosis, you're going to be malnourished. You're going to be nutrient deficient in a lot of things. Hopefully you won't be. I mean, I would love to hear stories about you guys not being malnourished or nutrient deficient, but in my experience, this is what happens. And a lot of the times it's anemia. Anemia, I believe it's about 30% of celiacs end up with anemia, and that's a large percentage. Anemia is when you're deficient in iron and ferritin, one or the other or both, and you'll feel tired. You will feel sluggish. You might be pale. I have anemia. It was more prevalent before I was diagnosed, and now I have it under control. But you don't want to ignore the fact that you might be nutrient deficient. Your D3 might be really, really low. Now, when your D3 is really low, that causes a whole other set of issues. So that can cause bone loss. That can cause your hair to fall out, fatigue, pain. You have to make sure, once you're properly diagnosed with celiac disease or gluten intolerance, you have to make sure that you go and you get the blood work to check all of your vitamins and minerals. It's really important because you really want to balance those out, especially if you're a child and you're diagnosed with something like this. That can affect how you grow. That can affect how you grow physically, mentally, emotionally. So B12 is a big one. Calcium, protein. You guys, you can be deficient in protein, believe it or not. So it's really important. It is a big challenge for us. It's a complication. It's an obstacle, but it's something that we can get through. It's something that we can just get our blood work done, and we can absolutely make sure that we're getting the nutrients we need with our diet, because we can always supplement with food. So just remember that you can always supplement with food. And then if you need extra, you get your supplements and make sure they're good supplements. I know I said that before, and then that will really help you feel better. I just want to take a second and talk about children. When children have celiac disease or when they are gluten intolerant, it can be quite difficult to diagnose. And children, especially because doctors, if they're not believing adults, they're not believing children. I mean, let's just face it. But they are not growing the way they need to be growing when they have celiac disease. And, you know, some of the testing can be, internal. So you don't want to put your child through too much testing, especially if they have to go under anesthesia. The doctors like to do a lot of tests, and they like to search for a lot of things, you know, when it comes to the kids. And I've learned that over the years. So do your best to do your research, especially when it comes to the children. You want to make sure that you're advocating for them. You want to make sure that you're empowered enough with yourself that you can help empower them and teach them as they grow up. It's really important. You have to fight for your children. Even if you have to go from doctor to doctor to doctor before you feel comfortable, that's really important. I just wanted to say that. Okay, moving on. Another challenge that celiacs have. We have other intolerances. So I didn't know prior to having celiac disease that I was going to have all these other intolerances. Lactose intolerance, corn intolerance, oat intolerance. There's so many other intolerances that can come along with having these. And it's going to be really difficult for you to find out, because let's say you have celiac disease and you get diagnosed and you're changing up your whole diet. Now, sometimes it can take a year for your body to heal and for you to feel better. And sometimes it can take 6 weeks and you'll start feeling better. But what happens if you're now at 18 months and you've completely cut out gluten and you are not feeling well? Something is still going on. You're having gastrointestinal issues, you're having headaches, fatigue, you're feeling stressed, your skin is a mess, because we know that goes along with celiac disease as well. You're going to have to look in to possibly having other intolerances. And that can be tricky. I know for me, I ended up cutting out a lot of food at one point. And I mean, you guys, I cut out a lot of food. And I kind of narrowed it down and figured it out on my own, what was bothering me. I kept a log. Back to the log, you guys, I'm telling you, a log can really save you a lot of heartache and pain. But I found out on my own. Now, you can utilize the help of a doctor that you trust, or, you know, a dietitian. You can do that. But you know, if you're feeling like something is still wrong, and you know for sure that you're not being contaminated, that you're not deficient in anything anymore because you have your supplements and you have your blood work, then you very well might have another intolerance. Oat is a big one for me. I can't do oat. Lactose, another one for me. So check into that. It's another challenge that we have. It's honestly, is it a pain? It is a pain. I mean, it's really difficult when you have to give up gluten. I mean, you probably were eating it for so long and then you had to give it up, and now you realize you have to give up milk and you have to give up, you know, oats and corn and soy and sesame. And it's a pain, you guys. It's a struggle. It's a challenge. It's hard. But I'm going to tell you, you will feel so much better. And you're not going to miss it. As you start to feel better and your body starts to heal, you're not going to miss the lactose. I mean, there's so many other options that are healthier and filled with good nutrients and filled with good stuff for you that's going to boost your immune system. You're going to end up not missing any of the stuff that bothered you, and you're going to find yourself craving the stuff. This is how your body adapts. This is how your body changes, and it's basically like a reassurance, like your body is telling you, yes, this is what I've been craving. This is what I've been trying to tell you. Stay away from the gluten, stay away from the dairy. You know, you'll see. I'm telling you, I don't know how else to explain it other than when you do it, it just feels so good. And you're just validated. Your body's validating you. And so make sure you keep a log. If you don't have access to a doctor that you trust, if you don't have access to a dietitian, or even you may even not have insurance and you may just be doing this all on your own. And that's difficult. And I really feel for you and I understand. But keep that log and try to do an allergen elimination diet. So there's the top 8 allergens. You can look them up. It's gluten, dairy, soy, shellfish, peanuts, tree nuts, eggs, stuff like that. You can eliminate a lot of stuff from your diet, and then after 8 weeks or 12 weeks, slowly start adding one thing back in and see how you feel. I could talk about that for hours and hours, but that'll be something else. But yeah, you can do that and you can start to see how you feel. Or if you're noticing in your log that every time you have anything with soy in it, the next day you're getting a headache and you're having gastrointestinal problems, stay away from soy for a little while and see if that makes a difference. Because you are going, chances are you're going to have other intolerances. Another huge challenge that I went through, and I'm gonna have to finish up. I'm looking at the time. I can't believe it. Okay, this has to be discussed really quick. My biggest symptom with celiac was neurological symptoms. Huge challenge, big complications, tingling, numbness, dizziness, vertigo, migraines, restless leg syndrome, anxiety, panic, stress. Like, I had so many neurological symptoms with my initial diagnosis, prior to being diagnosed, during diagnosis, and then a little bit after. And if I get cross contact, my neurological symptoms are the first symptoms to come back, starting with brain fog. I am so passionate about this, you guys. I'm so sorry I went over, but the complications and challenges that go along with celiac and gluten intolerance, there are so many that are not discussed. I just wanted to get it all in. And I know I was a little bit all over the place. I always do that when I'm passionate about something, but I hope that you gained some kind of value from this webinar. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm going to look back through all the comments as soon as I'm done with this. Thank you so much for having me, and feel free to just drop any questions there for me and I'll be happy to answer them. Have a great day, you guys.